Welcome, friends and family. Super excited to be here today as we continue on our series right here out of our Elevate studio on what it looks like to be a top producer in life. Like we kind of started off talking about what it takes to be a top producer in real estate, sales profession. That's what I do. That's what I love doing. I've been in real estate sales since 2005. Here we are in 2025. So now like 2 decades of doing what I love every day, and I'm so grateful for it. And so I want to just share a little bit about what I see top producers doing. And I want to just say, I see top producers doing this whether you're in real estate sales, whether you're in HVAC, construction, plumbing, moms, dads, fathers, sons, husbands, wives. I see top producers doing these things. And I want to just share a little something today with you called the 7-step method for effective problem solving. I have watched Brian Tracy. I've had the privilege of meeting Brian Tracy, and he's a legend in teaching and motivation and just being able to help people get from where they are to where they want to be. I love Brian Tracy. And Brian Tracy is the one who I've seen put together this 7 steps of effective problem solving. Step 1, define the problem clearly. And I think that's the key word, clearly. We must first define what is the problem, and then we need to make sure that we're all on the same page, that we're real clear about what the problem is. Number 2, ask what are all the reasons for the problem? What's going on? What's the real root of this problem? Like what's really going on here? Find the real reason. A lot of times when you start digging, what is on the surface isn't really what the real problem is. Sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. 3, what are all the possible solutions? So this is just a brainstorming time. Just throw it out there like spaghetti on a wall. Just throw it out there. Throw all the solutions you can out there. Just brainstorm, have fun, get it out of your mind, get it wrote out, and then make a decision. Once you got all the solutions that you possibly could, make a decision. I'm going to tell you, this is where I see a lot of people falter right here, right at number 4. They'll overthink it. 80% of all problems should be solved immediately. They do not need to be overthought. 20% of the time, it probably needs a little more thought. Most of the time, this is where good decisions go to die. They stay here. They're undecisive. Make a decision. That is super important. Right or wrong, make a decision. If you make a wrong decision, you'll figure it out. You can back up and try one of the other ones. 5, very important, assign responsibilities of who is going to take care of it. So you got to assign somebody with, hey, this is your job, this is your task, your name's on this. You got to be the one to take care of it. So you assign the person who's responsible for taking care of it. Number 6, set the standard. This is the quality we want to see in this project. We can't be having it down here. The standards are here. And set a deadline. This needs to be done by this time. X needs to be done to this quality by this time. Set the standard. And then number 7, be sure to have someone to be accountable for the work that is being done and that it's being done as expected and on time. Ultimately, somebody has to be responsible. We all need somebody to help hold us accountable. We all need somebody to kind of double check. The EOS model, Entrepreneur Operations Systems, created by Gino Wickman, Floyd Wickman's son. Floyd Wickman was one of the best real estate presenters of all time out of Michigan. Gino, his son, probably seen his dad start off and train a lot of top producers. But at the end of the day, Gino also recognized that in that process, a lot of these top producers start having staff and team members, and it grows. And that's where a lot of people will falter. So Gino put together what's called EOS, Entrepreneur Operations Systems. And in EOS, one of the things that he makes very clear is that you must have somebody whose name is on there for accountability, who's ultimately responsible for it. So somebody's name's got to go with that responsibility. Just going to share a quick story how this has kind of worked, this 7-step method kind of worked for us. I remember about 1.5 years ago, it was at the very end of February, and I believe it was 2023. And so we were purchasing this building on 1400 Neal Street in Cookeville. And for the first time, we were going to own a brokerage. And we'd worked for Harold Cry and Lisa Cry, two wonderful people. We'd had the privilege of working for them or with them for over 13 years. And in that transition of changing names from Cry-like to Elevate, in signs, there was so much that had to be done. So we brought the leadership team together. We had all of us sitting down in that room, and we began to define what the problem was. And the real problem was we'd never owned a brokerage. We had never went through what it was going to take to change from where we had worked for 13 years to now being owners. That was a problem. Like, we really didn't know how to go about it. So we sat down, we brainstormed. We asked, like, what are all the possible legal issues? What are all the things that could be problems that we got to really work here to get on board with? And then what are all the possible solutions? So what all needs to be done? And man, I think we ended up with a list of about 60 or so items of things that needed to be taken care of in order to make the change from Cry-like to Elevate on the day we close. So it was a big deal. Next, we made a decision. Like, yes, we're going forward. Yes, we see all these things need to be done. And then secondly, we assigned responsibilities. Casey, you had some great ideas. He's very responsible. And Casey had some, Lindsay had some, I had some. Everybody in that room that day was tasked with certain things on that list to get done. And so went from 60 to 90 things on that list. I'm sure we could go find that list. It was an important list, because I think that we'll start more offices, that we'll have Elevates throughout the state of Tennessee. So we'll be doing that again. So we probably have that list somewhere. But when you took that big list and you assigned it down to certain people being responsible for certain things, it didn't seem so big. You've probably heard the statement before, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. So when you share those responsibilities, it got a whole lot easier. So, and then what's the standard? What's the quality? You know, I know that my wife, Lindsay, was in charge of that beautiful sign that sits right out there at on Neal Street, 1400 Neal Street. And she was responsible for designing that sign. Not only that sign, her and Lucas worked together to create all of our signs, our Elevate signs that we put in the ground. We had to decide, do we want boxes? Do we want, how do we want our sign designed? How do we want the sign sitting out in front of the building designed? So there was so much that went into it. And so we had to have the standard, like, what's the quality? And of course, if any of you know my wife, Lindsay, there's no lowering the standard. It's always going higher. So she set a very high standard for our signs and the graphics and the work that was to be done. And again, we had to change out. We had to go take our Cry-like signs that we had been using for over 13 years and put our new Elevate signs in. So it was a big process. And who was in charge of making sure all that got done? Lucas was in charge of that portion of it. So, and when the job needed to be done, we had a close date. There was a date that we closed on this building, and it was no longer going to be Mr. Cry's. Now it was going to be our responsibility to maintain the building and build the brand. So at that time, we had a close date. It was in February, and I can't remember the exact date, but it's like, say, February 18th or 22nd. That was the day, had a deadline. And we had a very short time. Like, I think when we started the process, we had less than 45 days to really do all the work that we had to do. And then ultimately, somebody had to be sure that, somebody had to be accountable to make sure that everything was done. And again, when you look at EOS, they have a great model. It's a really good framework for, you have a visionary, you have your integrator, you have your operations, your sales manager, and your financial seat. And so ultimately, we know within our structure that the integrator is the one who is held responsible to make sure everything's running smoothly. So at the end of the day, they're the ones that have to ask the hard questions. Have you got this done? Are you going to be on time? If not, why not? Or what can we do to help? How can we make sure that we don't miss this deadline? Super important, guys. Hey, this is a 7-step method for effective problem solving. I highly recommend you look over this, apply this, define the problem clearly. Again, the word clearly. Ask, what are all the reasons for the problem? What are all the possible solutions to the problem? Make a decision. Don't let it die. Move it forward. Assign responsibility of who is going to Take care of it. Set a standard for quality and expectations and time for the job to be done. And then ultimately, somebody has to double check and make sure that the standard is held to that standard and that the time has been done. I hope this helps. Hey, if this adds any value to you or anybody you know, please like and share this. Thank you so much. Have a great day.